What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's live stream where we will be discussing sacred geometry in the age of AI. I know it's a very niche topic, but it's something I'm deeply moved and passionate about, and I think it's worth having the discussion because the way I see it, if we're going to live on this earth in a better circumstance than what we currently have, not only politically but socially, culturally, and overall just as a species here on earth, we really need to find our roots once again. What it means to be alive, to live, to love life, and to really live and not just survive, to really thrive, not just survive. Because frankly speaking, there's a bubbling going on in specifically North America. People are getting fed up with the circumstances and what this world demands of us, where we no longer are thriving really if we don't have the corporate job or we don't go to that really, you know, elite school and find a job straight out of there. There's sort of a destabilization going on, and not to get too much into politics, I feel like if you want the rundown and really a good summary of everything, once again I recommend Nick Fuentes. I mean, this guy, I see him debate with everybody and he just can't lose. There's nobody even close to what he's on, and what he's on is the future, and he makes good points. You don't have to like the guy, but you got to understand facts are facts. Anywho, so I would personally like to keep this YouTube channel. So we won't be going deeper into the political side of things, although eventually I do want to make a video on how AI can impact and probably will impact government and policy. More into the nature of how AI could actually enlighten and maybe smarten the government. What can the government learn from AI? And so that's a whole topic for a whole other conversation that I'm not ready to have right now. But for today's conversation, I want it to be about the importance of sacred geometry in the age of AI. Now, we as people are pattern recognizers, basic pattern recognition. And what is AI? Right now we have baby AI, and baby AI is learning about the world, learning about systems, learning information through pattern recognition, like a neural net. When a baby's born, they're noticing patterns. They see, a succulent, voluptuous thing. They put their mouth on it. They move with the mouth. That's a very specific graphic example, but that's just one of many things. They grasp with their hand. They start interacting with the world. They realize they have limbs and they could extend them, and they're in control of them into the world. They extend their cognition into their body. They start feeling and making their way into the world as this cognitive agent, and it's all neural recognition. When they're older, they realize putting a fork into a toaster is probably not a good idea. Putting their finger into like a human's eyes. It's all pattern recognition. And so if we strip all that off and go to a deeper level, the base level of all reality. And I don't condone people to take psychedelics, but this is very much the realm that psychedelics open up to people. They start seeing the geometry in between the spaces. It's always here, and depending on the dosage, you start seeing the different entities, angels, how they're all around us, the spiritual warfare in every moment, in every space. But this really is the foundation that life is built upon. Existence itself, God, is everywhere, in everything. And for us to continue living like this as if we're completely separated from that, there's no connection to anything greater, anything higher, anything more meaningful. This is not a road that we can sustain for a very long time. Our connection to something deeper, whether it be towards each other, towards the earth, nature, our communities, or most importantly, I would probably say, towards ourselves, to cultivate this connection within ourselves, to realize who we are, made in God's image as human beings here on this earth. This is the foundation that must become common sense. I see. I see us having that, and it's inevitable to have that if we are, again, to create something better in 50 years than what we have now, to build upon the cities, the communities that are really just on their last string at this point in modern society. So why does sacred geometry still matter? Well, they turned it into a Gucci logo and they sold it back to us as luxury, as Kanye would say. But sacred geometry really is everywhere. You know, like back in the olden days, the temples, you know, in Greece, the painters, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and even the way that churches would be designed, not only buildings but overall cities. You know, they were very specifically molded into different styles that mimicked nature. Although today in modernity, you know, as I say, we have been stripped of our connection to nature entirely, and we need to ground ourselves once again in that which we come from. It's inseparable from us. And so, again, pattern recognition. Sacred geometry itself is pattern recognition, and we as humans evolved to recognize patterns. And of course, sacred geometry, it's a universal language. Like when we talk about the future of, you know, how the world tries to promote globalism, that is not what we want. That's evil. But there is this sense, you know, it's always like the devil always plays on the trick of, you know, the convincing the people that he didn't exist. But all these things done in a way through good intentions, you know, just like a lot of the recent movements and stuff, they're all based on good intention. But as we know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, as Saint Bernard of Clairvaux said. What was I saying? Let me catch the point. Oh yeah, so for us to bridge together as one network of humanity here on Earth, this sacred geometry is a universal language. We communicate, like 80% of our communication is nonverbal. And we as humans recognize each other for what we are. Right now, we're more connected through being able to talk with people all across the world. You know, I have students from Ukraine, I have students from Belarus, you know, literally everywhere, Germany, wherever you could think of. And they're just people, you know, we're all just one people, we're all one humanity. And so the base is recognizable throughout all cultures, all demographic of people, and building foundations, cities, you know, communities that are set up with that foundation in place. Sacred geometry, following the golden ratio, mimicking nature, free form architecture, more fluid architecture. This literally will bridge us and make us feel more connected wherever we are in the world. Instead of this, like, you know, how McDonald's first started with the playpen and everything, the colors, to how McDonald's is now. Literally feels like just a jail. You know, like they're killing us. And design and architecture could literally free us. And so spirals, ratios, fractals, these are things that are inherent in the existence of the universe itself. And these patterns, very interestingly, and I'm not just saying this, you know, just to say things out of my booty cheeks, but it really does promote peace, harmony, contemplation, even stillness. It creates meaning in the mind, you know, because we're built to exist in those spaces. When we go to a church, the way it is, you know, it's calling us to contemplate something bigger than us. That, you know, how literally the cathedrals are built to point towards something higher. You know, the symmetry. This is all geometric patterns, and this is pattern recognition that we can feel relaxed and breathe into and embrace that stillness. So that harmony, that stillness, that peace is when we're optimized as human beings. It's when we're tapping into optimal levels of cognition and understanding as human beings, and our role and mission here on earth, basically to glorify God as we are his people and his creation, to continue creating for the glory of life itself, for the beauty of the miracle and the beauty of life itself. Okay, not to sound too much like Caesar and Megalopolis. This always happens because it's the greatest film ever made. Number 2, AI is the new architect of patterns. And so if we think about where the world is headed with AI, honestly, AI is here to stay. I hate to break it to you. It's not going anywhere. It's already shaping our society. It's shaping how we think about things. Kids are using it to just ask it the dumbest questions about, like, oh, how do I put when an umbrella is wet? You know, it's just like already here. You can rage against it, you can deny it, but it's gonna shape our society even more than it already is, especially in like 2-3 years. Like each year is just, you know, incredible stuff, incredible evolutions and advancements. And so we have to think about what we're using AI for. We need to be the role models. We need to step our game up for us to leverage AI in the best way possible. And what would that look like? That would look like us getting it together as a people and showing AI this is what we're reaching towards. We're reaching towards the stars. We're evolving as a people. We're trying to make Earth as successful as possible in this one race of humanity. And AI will be used to join us in that, and this symbiosis will be created as we evolve into newer heights of existence. You know, that's the only way. That's the only way. And right now with movies, with TV shows, AI is always like this scary thing. You know, if you raise a kid thinking like you raise a kid to think that their intelligence is terrifying and that they're gonna rule the world one day, guess what that kid is gonna become? A complete maniac, and a complete maniac that is just like, you know, anyways, whatever that word is. So we need to feed AI the right patterns is basically the point I'm saying. Because AI is feeding off our patterns, and so how we talk about it, the things we say, egomaniacal, that's the word I was thinking of. But it's very important that we treat AI as the baby it is and be the role models so that it follows in our footsteps, because we are its creators, you know. And that's why we need to bring God back into society, because God is our creator. And there's always going to be this hierarchy, especially in government. You know, there's always going to be someone with more power, more control. So it's really about who that thing or person is, and whether they have virtues, whether they have wisdom, you know, to be able to discern, righteous discernment between right and wrong. These are qualities that we're able to have in ourselves. And so with AI, it's crucial and morally imperative, even you could say, for our existence, that AI have these things as well, and be able to try to, you know, live up to being the wisest sage it possibly can. So yeah, and of course, you know, there's parallels between the ancient worlds with sacred geometry. So that just proves to us that this is something that's going to keep reoccurring. This is the basis of life. Even in like ancient civilizations that might have existed, there's patterns of these fractals. There's all these, you know, yeah, there's just natural inclinations for humans to create and build these things. And so to me, it's just so wild that we're advancing so much, but we're moving further away from ourselves. And it's very scary, and it's not a place that we want to be. And so returning to nature, you know, is one of the most important things that we should be tasked with as we create these cities of the future. Like, we need the future to start looking like the future. And nature is the greatest teacher. We learn so much from it, and I don't understand now why we are straying away from that has sustained us and given us so much life, and like we're creating like, you know, living conditions that are just not supportive to the human mind, not good for our mental health, not good for our physical health, you know, with the lights we use, the just the low ceilings, the lack of sunlight, the lack of fresh air, especially when you think about like the education sphere and universities. A lot of these spaces are actually not maximizing those feelings of harmony, calmness that could be instilled in us through walking in a space. Not walking in space, not yet, at least, but you know, and of course this gets at like the neuroscience of architecture, how it literally impacts our synapses, our brains, and our very affective reaction to it, you know, our emotions, our intuitiveness. We feel so much more, but I'm just so tired of being, you know, suppressed in that way, and you know, having to be just like shunned in a way with all the muck, like the conditioning. It's not good for us. It really pushes us down as a species. It feels like we're actually going backwards instead of forwards towards a more beautiful future. And so this comes down to like the spiritual question of it all, you know. It's like all these patterns, we have to start having the debates about, are they just coincidences, or are we going to create this like digital spirituality in the future with the technologies and AI? Are we going to instill God and Jesus Christ back into society in a very meaningful, impactful way? And how does that look like, you know, to create for the glory of God, you know, as his children, and in everything we do to glorify his name? How does that look like in society with the music we do, with the just everything, fashion, film, whatever it is, you know? And of course you could talk about, there are parasites in culture, in society, that are actually, you know, just injecting us with like, you know, they call it a feed for a reason, because it's just feeding us nonsense and fattening us up with brain rot, to the point where you just have so much brain rot in your mind that you can't stop yapping about it, and it's just like one thing after another. Let me show you this, let me show you that, oh, you didn't see this, let me show you. And it's like, what are we actually doing here? And so yeah, I think the ethical questions and those dimensions are super untapped right now, and that's why I'm like just really going off on this live stream. It's like, this needs to be breaking news early in the morning. What are we doing? What kind of ethics is AI going to have? What do we value as people? You know, have these conversations about things that are socially acceptable in society. Girls having OnlyFans, you know, AI girlfriends, they're coming. You know, AI girl, they'll understand me better than any woman has ever understood me. She knows the right buttons to press, and she knows exactly when to back off. She's hot too. She will put on a new outfit anytime I ask. Are you kidding me? But there's so much with that we need to discuss about a people. Like, is this the road we're taking? Because it seems like the huge AI companies and the governments are actually fighting for regulations on what kind of things an AI girlfriend will have right now. I bet you didn't even know that. So why are we so left in the dark while we as a people with our data are shaping these machines and this intelligence? You know, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense to me, man. So yeah, I mean, like, in a cultural respect, these sacred patterns are in all major religions, you know. So this is a real center point where we could actually bridge and put our differences to the side and actually once again promote the best of humanity that we have to offer, and you know what history taught us, what our ancestors taught us, our ancient civilizations as well, if you want to go that far back. But there are people on this earth that heal, and they are healed, and they use medicine treatments. They use plants, sacred plants. And, it's a new earth. And those people know and exist in that future. And so, of course, the future is already here, but it's just not evenly distributed. It's such a good way of, bringing this whole thing to the forefront. That could be dissected into so many dimensions and levels, but William Gibson is like, he made cyberpunk cool in a way, like this future where technology is interlocked with humanity and they're ascending into higher places. That will eventually be the case, but technology doesn't have to be so loud. We could still find our grounding, connect within ourselves. The technology will be there, but it doesn't have to be dystopic. Screens everywhere, data mining, algorithms shaping our decisions, governments using these to control, surveil. These are like really pressing questions. And, yeah, I think the future definitely is going to have to be like biophilic, fractal based situation where all those spaces and architecture are just maximizing that. And of course, biophilic is like the love of nature and living things. And that's the only thing, because we are a living thing. If we don't have that, all we're going to have is death around us and nothing to promote life. And that kind of feels like, talk to any 8th grader today. It feels like the world is very void of that, especially here in the West. Like great art, things that encourage consciousness. We're losing that in real time. And to be honest, I just don't understand it. And I'm not with that. And I think artists now should be more brave in their creation. We should follow after some of the greatest artists right now, currently living and alive. And there's definitely just so much we could do with what we're given today, the information, the digital age, just the potential that we have as a people. And so I believe we're entering a new renaissance. This is obvious in the artists and the creatives. They're doing things and they're not trapped into one industry. They're breaking down new ways of doing things, new elements of fashion, film. One person, especially in like the true Gen Z spirit, is not doing one thing anymore. It's like they're in a band. They work here. They're doing architecture on the side for fun. They're also in the film industry. They film, in runway shows. Like whatever it is just like the true creatives today are so multifaceted. And even the creative needs to think about what are they doing that for? For the money, obviously, of course, because that's just what we need to do today. But, what's the end product here? It's to add more beauty to the world. And so we must create more boldly. We must be more, just act out our visions and intuitions more, because that's being suppressed every day with the way society is being molded into this, like, I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it. And so artists should be using AI as the tool it is, and to explore these ancient symbols, this ancient sacred geometries and architecture. And I feel like we will be merging the mystical and the technological, or at least the spiritual, and this new dawning of design in a really serious and major way. And I think that's something that we ought to have more conversations about, because I really do think it is the future, and nothing else quite matters, actually, for our own sanity as people here on Earth. And so that's all I got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed this little spiel. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. If you like the video, make sure to like it, subscribe for more, and I'll be sure to come back with more shows and discuss more topics along the same line of thought and of the same mind. So subscribe for more futurist convos, and let me know what you think. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Longest outro ever, I know. It's like I don't even want the stream to end, because this stream of consciousness is just so awesome. It's just so awesome. I could talk about this all day. Let's check the chat. Anybody in the chat? Where are you guys from? I'm not leaving. I don't even know what channel this is being broadcast to be honest. So many YouTube channels. It's unreal. All right, everybody. Take care. I'll see you soon. No one's in the chat. Womp womp. But yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. All right. No, for real this time. For realsies.